Alright, so the magician, in a nutshell, the magician is the shamans, the musicians, the medicine men, the wizards, the witch doctors, the inventors, the scientists, the technicians. The magician is the knower, the ritual elder, the guides of the processes of transformation, both within and without. The magician is the initiator of secret and hidden knowledge, and the master of crafts, whether that be anything from woodworking or playing an instrument or whatever it is. The magician archetype is like the master of the craft. Mm-hmm. And the magician is also about discernment. In the book it calls it the bullshit detector. And the magician is also the archetype of awareness and insight.
Yeah, his knowledge bridges that gap between the inner and the outer worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
He's, like you said, he's the sage, he's the one where all of that knowledge requires some sense of special training.
Exactly.
In his domain. So he really has a great capacity to detach from different events, from, say, the chaos of the world, and really just draw in the essential truths on the resources and really get into that depth within himself or herself. And then be able to just really clearly think in those times of crisis.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that stood out to me the most with the magician, is being able to have the emotions there, not suppress them, but fully observe them. And I think there's this aspect of when you're not being manipulated and contorted by all the emotions, but you're able to take a sort of third-person perspective, if you will, and observe everything that's happening, observe all of these storms, then you can see things from a perspective that brings insight and wisdom, where you wouldn't be able to see it if you were just in it.
Yeah, definitely. Right, and those shadow sides of the magician would be the manipulator or the innocent one. The ones, maybe the one who wants the power but doesn't want the responsibility.
Yeah, I think didn't it say something like the lying innocent one?
The lying?
I want to check that out really quick. Or maybe it's the denying innocent one.
Magician.
The denying innocent one.
So there's the detached manipulator and the denying innocent one. Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was cool about the magician is it said the magician understands the links between the unseen spirit world, human beings, and nature. And also, like the knower of astrology and the stars and what that says about us individually and on a spiritual level. The magician knows how to transform raw emotional energy into useful and life-enhancing forms of self-expression. And
I think the alchemist.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's like perfect way to say that. And the magician is, because of his ability to take a back seat and observe the emotions, he's stable, centered, and not easily pushed and pulled around. One of the things that I remember is that he comes online when there is a crisis, oftentimes. It gave this example of, well, actually, I had a personal experience where I remember this happening, where I was living in Minnesota and there were icy roads, and there was this hill that was so icy and steep that it didn't matter if I had my brakes on, my car was just sliding down the hill. And I had to decide in a split second, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to turn the wheel? What am I going to, what's the best way to handle this situation? And I also had an experience like this in Yellowstone where there was grizzly bears that came up to us. And it was like one of those things where it's like, I remember very distinctly what went on with me mentally. Because the first thing that I thought was, oh my fucking God, I can't outrun those things.
Yeah.
And the second thing I thought was I might die. And then the third thing was, okay, snap out of it. What's the best thing to do right now? What do I need to do right now? And I remember reading these signs that said if you see bears, make yourself appear as big as possible and make loud noises. So I was with two of my friends and I grabbed their hands and threw their arms up in the air and just started yelling as loud as I could, and we all did. And the bears stopped in their tracks and turned around and ran away. And that is like the magician energy right there. It's like when you're in that point of like, God damn, I need to make a decision right now. And being able to, because the magician, I think, in an imbalance in that situation would be like, oh my god, panic, just completely giving into the emotion and not able to be like, okay, wait a second, sit, take a back seat, look at it, what's the best thing to do, and then the warrior comes online and acts.
Yeah, absolutely.
The magician is that stepping aside and seeking knowledge and seeking wisdom and really being like, okay, is there like do I need to rearrange my root structure here? Is there like an internal transformation that needs to happen right now? You know, am I going about things in the best way, in the wisest way? And especially just connecting with astrology and the spiritual aspects of things, connecting with that, and then the warrior comes online, you're able to, at that point, reground, restructure yourself, and then go back into the action, go back into the movement.
Yeah, I think that we've covered the magician in its fullness.
Cool. You want to talk about the shadows?
Yeah, let's talk about the shadows. So some of the shadows, well, one of them would be the manipulator. That's the one who's really, in essence, they are working in the shadows. That they're doing these little things very covertly to undermine others, and it's, you can also talk about the trickster element where, hey, I can see a way to foil your plans, or I can see one little element that can really throw a monkey wrench in this whole scenario, and then taking action in that way.
And I remember it talking about how the trickster or the manipulator is very much about like how to pull the rug out from under people and get them to a point where you it's kind of like seeking this feeling of being like, ha, I know more than you.
Diabolical.
Yeah, and it's funny because it goes on to talk about how this element, where the opportunity that this really is, where this energy lies, is the bullshit detector. Being able to see that within ourselves and with other people. It's just the bipolarity kind of coming online when it's with that intention of tricking people, and you don't have their best intention, and it's really just to kind of get that kind of reaction.
Right. Yeah. But that's what all he lives for, is just that reaction.
Like the Riddler in Batman or something.
Yes. Exactly.
That's what I think of. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So then the passive pole of that would be that the innocent one. You said the denying innocent.
The denying
one.
innocent one.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one that he or she desires to have that full access to be considered the magician, but really doesn't want the responsibility of any of it.
Right.
It's like I wants all the power with it, all the fun without the work.
Yeah, I think there's this aspect of, where I was talking about the dummy in the book, where it's like, will act like in areas where he actually knows things that could help or be beneficial. He'll play like he's completely ignorant just to get out of the responsibility of it.
Right.
And that's the biggest aspect of it. But it does become manipulation in its own way, because there are ways where you, as the denying innocent one, there are ways you could be helping someone. You could be taking action. You could be intervening in a way that many people would benefit, but because of that imbalance, because of feeding that bipolarity, it's like you're just kind of watch everything, and then you might say like, oh, I knew all along, I knew that would happen, whatever.
Yeah.
But you were just kind of
right, almost almost like that. Oh, who me? That I contribute to that. You sure? No, I don't think so. But in reality, you had a hand in orchestrating it behind the scenes. One of the things being learning just enough to be able, as they say, learns enough, or he knows enough to be dangerous.
Right.
You learn and you know enough to be able to sabotage, and you can do your little manipulation under the shadows and under the curtain, but at the same time, you know that also you could really be helping people out with this. You could be holding a safe container and sacred space for others, because when you witness others doing that, there is a sense of envy there for that vitality that they receive by holding that sacred space and by receiving that reward of helping and benefiting others. But you just choose not to go there. So instead, you end up stepping back into that manipulator role, where then you're just sabotaging your and other people's efforts, or draining energy and not really giving anything back.
Yeah, and I think it comes from an inner insecurity too, a vulnerability, like you were talking about with the warrior, because it's one of those things where it's like having the confidence, like I was saying earlier, the magician is the shaman and the ritual elder. Mm-hmm. There's a confidence that comes online for the individual to be able to take up that role. And especially because when you're guiding other people through a transformative sort of path, they have to trust you. So if you don't trust yourself, or you don't believe, then that's going to create an instability in that whole relationship. Right. So I think the dummy is really doubting himself. Mm-hmm. And with a lot of these shadow archetypes, that's where a lot of the bipolarities really come on. It's just like a lack of love or attention to the core of the being, I think.
Yes. Great.
Anything else on shadows?
No, I'd say that pretty much covers it.
Cool. So, do we want to say anything about accessing the magician in his fullness?
Yes. Let's talk about accessing that magician. So,
I wrote down, we are accessing the magician when we make difficult decisions with careful and insightful deliberation. I would say the biggest aspect of accessing the magician is, number one, seeking wisdom, and then being able to be present and observe the emotions that you're feeling, and with the wisdom that you're seeking, be like, okay, what's really going on here? And sometimes, for myself, a way that I practice this is, sometimes I realize if I'm in a really upset sort of emotional state, especially towards a particular person, sometimes I know the best thing for me to do is to go be alone so that I can process those emotions. Because I might be in a state where I'm not capable of expressing myself in a loving way to that person at that time. I need to go away, I need to go be with those emotions, I need to watch them, I need to let them be there, not suppress them, whatever needs to come up. And then over time, as there's clarity, as the storm passes, then I can be like, okay, now I can be calm and centered in the way that I interact with this individual. So I think that's one way to access the magician.
Right, and I know we talked about, as the warrior, having your assertiveness, having a path and honoring that path, walking it. Well, then that's where the magician comes in, where then you're also dedicating yourself to really learning that craft of whatever it is that path is, and stepping fully into it. So, it's becoming the master of something. That's where the magician steps in and really gives you, the focus that you need, because, a lot of times we choose to be the jack of all trades, master of none. Well, this magician energy, this magician in the fullness, invites you to explore mastery of one. And what does that look for you, really stepping fully into that?
I think the Magician is such a... I mean, obviously every archetype is integral, but the Magician is just really stands out to me because you have the Lover, which is like the source of all our inspiration and joy and passion, but can get caught in the web of emotions, right? But the Magician being able to take those emotions, that energy, and transmute it into something, just into a type of expression that benefits all.
Yeah, really consciously cutting out that noise, you know, sifting through the bullshit and then finding where it is that you need to be centered on, and then walking that and learning what it takes to walk that effectively with true purpose. It's that's part of it, and some of that requires you to create more. And if you think about a scientist, or you know, when you see, say, Merlin, and you think about them putting in the potions here and there, and then all of a sudden, poof, you know, the smoke blows up in your face. Whew, you shake it off, you wipe your face off, and then you go back to the learning aspect of that, you know, lessons learned. All right, so I know that when I put this element in and I put that element in, that blows up in my face, so I'm not going to do that again. So what is it that I need to do to maybe make these little slight shifts and adjustments in this formula, and that formula of my craft, whatever that is, you know, in this case as the scientist, so that I can make that perfection, that perfect recipe that is, you know, my potion.
That's such a beautiful example to look at it, because it makes me think of, in particular, the Magician, the Lover, and the Warrior. Because let's say you're doing that, the potion blows up in your face, the Lover comes online, oh fuck, I don't want to do it, you know, the emotional.
Yeah.
The Warrior is like, I want to be committed to doing something, but you realize also this shit isn't working.
Yeah.
So the Magician is able to come online and say, okay, what needs to change here? Like, what can I learn? What is there? What kind of adjustment? And then, you know, it's like, and then the Warrior is able to, you know, find a new foothold and move forward again. And then the Lover can be the energy through that whole thing.
Exactly, the passion, the drive,
and
as
the
opposed
Magician
to the chaos.
the Magician doesn't just shut down the Lover. The Magician is like, okay, let me like be with this feeling. It's like, and that's your humanness, you know. And it's like so many times when we're learning how to do something and we fail and it's miserable, it's like so many times when that happens, it ends up becoming a gift, because now you have that way of connecting to another human being that has also gone through that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
And also a way of being able to step closer towards maybe your yes and your no, because sometimes those experiences are experiences where you didn't quite know, there was a gray area and you stepped into it, and because of maybe a stumble, now you're able to really, really fully see where your yes and your no, where that boundary is for yourself, and then communicate that out, or manifest that next in your life, attract that, magnetize that towards yourself. And like you said, you know, as the magician understands that in order for this to be its perfect aspect of itself, or its fullest aspect of itself, what it is that I choose to create, that I need assistance. I may need a mentor, and actually that I welcome a mentor, someone who maybe has gone through some of those steps where they've had the smoke blow up in their face a few times, and I can learn from that so that I don't have to have it blow up in my face in that same way. And then also being able to, like you said, call in those other archetypes and say, man, all right, guys, obviously this isn't working how I'm doing it. So, you know, Lover, okay, you've got some chaos going on right now. Let's say acknowledge that, and then jump back into your fullness of yourself, Lover, and where is that passion? Because right now I feel like giving up. So, lover, come in. Let's burn those, stoke those flames again of that passion and that desire to move forward. Warrior, you come in and remind me of my honor and my sense of purpose towards my goal and my mission. And then King, I know we haven't talked about that yet, but then also, you know, let's do that. What is the cause? What is this for? And
let's bring the calmness. Let's have a centeredness with all of these things.
Bring it
and
all
let's
together.
Realize this relationship that's happening with these other archetypes and encourage ourselves and affirm ourselves. And as we do that, be able to give that gift to other people too.
Perfect. Exactly. And so really, Magician, he knows when to bring all of those in.
For sure. Awesome.
As a cybersecurity professional, which I don't really like to talk about, but it is what it is. Being able to get those certifications, you know, really finding ways that I can dial in how I can come and show up as the more fullest aspect of a cybersecurity professional. And cut.